Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're doing a quick live about software updates. I'm chilling here in the broadcast room, and you know what? I forgot that. So there's also the broadcast recording desk. So I'm going to close this door so I don't interrupt anybody else. Um, so we're talking about fighting the fear of software updates, and so obviously I'm in the broadcast studio. I'm running a live stream box using Wirecast over here. I'm also running a graphics box over here. Let's get some more light on the subject. Let's get more vibe. Let's see, we'll kick this on. There we go. A little better. Um, so, for the last 6 months, I have been kicking down the software updates for OS X on both the graphics box and the live stream box because I just wasn't sure that the software that sits on top of that we rely on for our weekly broadcast was compatible. Now, since in the last 6 months there has been updates to the third-party software, and I've read through the release notes, and it says that Mojave is supported and it works, and they fixed security patches and different. So there's plenty of releases between when it initially launched and now, I feel comfortable going ahead and going forward and making those updates, which I'm doing now. So as you can see here, let's see if I can get a better. As you can see here, I'm updating to Mojave. And there we go. So, and that's always a fearful, sketchy thing when dealing with the operating system, because you're like, okay, well, what about all my files and all the peripherals that I have? Will they? And usually, it's funny. I was talking to Zach during lunch, and we're talking about these updates. Sorry for the shakiness on the phone. I'm hand holding today, um, because I left my tripod and my Joby at home, and so yeah, so there's that. But yeah, Zach and I were talking a little bit during lunch about the speed of software and technology, and it not it just being too fast, and there's too many things that are coming out, and that both in hardware and software, and new releases, and different tools that you're using that you rely on each other, and they didn't get the and it just causes a mess. It's like one bug after another, and so I feel like at this point, 6 months down the road, maybe not quite 6 months. I think it was October, maybe early November when Mojave was actually released. I'd have to double check that, so don't hold me to that. But um, the other software tools that we do rely on for our production have been updated and have stable releases for those platforms. So I feel confident in making that update now. Um, it's going to take 10 minutes to do that one. I've already updated the Wirecast software to the latest release. So I'll go ahead and close that. I'm going to close that, and now I'm going to update the OS on this box. Um, and to do that, if you don't know how, sometimes you'll get a notification, but if you've turned that notification off and you don't know how to get into it, you can go to the Apple menu, and there's a just under System Preferences, it says App Store, and it'll tell you how many updates are available. So it launches the App Store. Um, Software updates. I did the security one. Numbers, Pages, Keynote, iMovie we don't use. iTunes, Safari. So I'm going to go ahead and type in Mojave. So, and here we go under utilities. We're going to go ahead and open that. Opens the icon down in the navigation bar, and it's giving me the the license agreement. So just click agree and go through that, and clicking install, and boom, that one's going. But yeah, it's the fear of doing these updates, which I totally get, because Adobe launched their Adobe launched their Creative Cloud 2019 shortly after Mojave launched, and let's just say it was not without bugs. And when you're relying on your process, when you're relying on these software tools for your process and your job and the production that you're doing, it's fearful to make those new updates immediately. That's why I don't have auto update turned on either of these boxes, because those releases are probably not stable with the other software that we use. So I'm confident at this point that it's okay, but it's 6 months down the road. And it's funny because Zach and I were talking during lunch about, you know, the speed of technology and where's the sweet spot in when it's okay to go ahead and do that update. And I think it really depends on what tools you're using, and if those tools are if those tools are ready and have been tested and are stable on that new software operating system. And that's true not just for operating systems, that's true for any software that you're using. And the new release comes out, and quite honestly, not all the bugs may have been worked out. So there's that. But that fear, overcoming that fear, I think there's a right way to go about doing that, and then there's a wrong way. I can keep kicking those updates down the road, but the further down the road you kick them, then you also start to run into problems. You run into different lag and buffering and caching issues and different things, because the backward compatibility isn't there. These software companies and the hardware companies are putting a lot of effort and energy and resources in development in what's new and making things better. But it doesn't make sense, and it's not profitable to be backward compatible. And what does that mean? That means supporting, so for example, on my graphics box, supporting an operating system that maybe 3 or 4 iterations back. You'll also find that on some older machines. Like I have a 2012. I think the 2012 MacBook would actually ran Mojave, but my 2007 would not. So I think Snow Leopard was the highest version of the operating system that the hardware would support. So it just becomes fearful. I had an audio mixer that was FireWire. Now Mac's not even using FireWire anymore, so there's another issue. But so I kept my audio interface, because it was a MV410 made by M Audio, and it worked really well. And but it was FireWire, and as the software releases got further down the road, and the hardware, they started changing that for Lightning and then USB-C and that type of thing, and they're not supporting FireWire anymore. Then the software became out of date, and it was just was just a mess. So, and then eventually I couldn't use the audio interface anymore, and I had to update to one that was more current. And so, they're forcing me, and they're forcing us as the consumers to buy more gear or buy new software because of that lack of compatibility. So, it's part of, it's funny because Caleb from SwitchPod, he posted earlier about Canon having the EOS R with the new RF lenses, and he was saying how, hey, can we have a native EF to RF converter so that we can use these amazing RF lenses on our EF. And I'm sure there's an adapter that a third party will release. I don't know if Canon will or not, but that backward compatibility in the long term is not profitable for companies going forward. Hence why they have new interfaces. EF isn't working with RF in the and like, for example, the app with the highest number of products sold, the product that was the most sold by Apple wasn't a MacBook, wasn't even the iPhone. It was that dongle cable from the 1/8-inch jack to Lightning, so that you could use your headphones, which it's like when there's a dongle cable that's your highest number of products sold, it's like, I mean, that's profitable, but how many of those are you going to manufacture? Like, how far back do you need to do that and that type of thing? So, and at what point do you want people to get off of that old hardware so that you can continue to sell your but it's the fear of the interruption. It's the fear of, man, this isn't going to work. Like, I just want to plug it in and it work. So today I'm fighting that fear. I've read the release notes, plus I have 2.5 days before I have to actually rely on this software for our live production. So if there's any troubleshooting that needs to happen, at least I have 2 days to do that, to make sure that everything's working properly. But according to all the release notes, all the updates on the software pieces that rely on the operating system, it's pretty solid, and there's plenty of documentation that shows that it works. So I'm confident that it's going to be okay. So I'm kind of stepping into this without as much fear, primarily because we're 6 months away, 6 months down the road from the original release. So, but yeah, so have you guys had any issues with doing software updates, be that operating systems or other software that you rely on to be productive and do your job? Trying to think of anything other than the NRV10 situation. I mean, I've had to go into the code. I was able to get that to work, but I had to dive into the code and disable some things. And when you start doing that, it definitely becomes a security risk. But yeah. So I've kicked the software updates as far down the road as I could, and then now that I've got stable, we'll see, as I'm working on this right now, we'll see how stable and everything is working, which I'm pretty confident it will. But and then in another 3 months, or 4 months, there'll be another new release, and I'll be kicking those updates another 6 months down the road. So, um, has anybody had any horror stories? Yeah, post up in the comments if you've had any horror stories about updates that, like you had to update hardware, or when I have an old G3 that I use, or G5 tower that I used to use to run my recording studio, and it's a PowerPC processor, and all the new software it put something in the operating system that will not allow any of this other stuff to use the PowerPC processor, but at the time it was a more stable processor. But you can thank Intel's contract with Apple on that one. But yeah, let's see what else. So we're still in the updating process. I don't know if I'm gonna sit here and watch the paint dry, so to speak. So just hit me up. I'd love to hear about different challenges or solutions that you've had in this type of space, whether that be from camera updates and software patches, or driver issues, which is also software, or whether that's hardware interface problems, different peripherals and different third-party elements that you might have had trouble with. Just curious to learn more about that. So anyway, I'm not going to bore you with this paint drying, and but let's keep the conversation going. I definitely love to connect in the chat, or in the comments if we end the stream here. And what are some solutions that you've had, or you've found, or hacks in dealing with software updates, and how do you fix that? Like Adobe, Adobe's new suite, Creative Cloud issues on the Mojave, and there's still some issues there. Not so much on Mojave, but High Sierra. I know one of the editors from the video team can't even open After Effects 19 because he's on High Sierra, and they're not supporting that. And our not every peripheral is supporting Mojave, so you don't want to move to that, and then all of a sudden one of your primary tools doesn't work. So you can see the tangled web of issues that it can cause. So yeah, anyway, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. Smash all those buttons and things, and if you want to reach out, post up a comment, or find me on Twitter, you can hashtag Film Crew and look me up. It's Eric Thurston, as well as on Instagram under my name as well. And would love to connect and see how I can bring any value or assistance or help, or encouragement. Perhaps that's just what you need, some encouragement to continue to fight the good fight. So we'll see you soon.